Welcome back to the Cambium Thrive Together Masterclass, the show where real estate pros come to stretch their mindset, sharpen their skills, and think bigger. I'm your host, Kathleen Metcalf. Welcome, everybody, to the Thrive Together Masterclass podcast. I'm Kathleen Metcalf with Cambium, and I am very honored to have my special guest, Sky Michaels, with me today from With Heart Coaching. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's such a pleasure.
You and I make a great team. We are kindred spirits in so many ways. And so when we connected our success habits to the Thrive Together Masterclass podcast, and the topic of shift, right, was one thing we wanted to focus on for this month of August. There was no one first that came to mind but Sky, because of some of the personal shifts I have witnessed and been able to see you make in your career, and also because of the kind of focus, intention, and heart that you bring to the coaching work that you do in how you help people shift. But let's start with your career. You've had a
Sure.
real estate team, you've been
Yep.
a part of the world of Compass, and now you've founded With Heart Coaching. So tell us about the shifts that you've made there. How did
So,
those happen for you?
yeah, I'll take you back even further. Originally, years back, I was actually a high school history teacher. So my
Right.
first shift, it really was accidental in the sense of I just fell into real estate thinking it would be my part-time gig.
Yeah.
And I think that shift, I think most of the time we don't plan shifts, right? We
Mm,
typically don't look ahead in our life and say, oh, next year I'm going to make this shift. Often shifts sort of happen organically or emerge for us. And we often don't either want to recognize it or believe it in the
mm,
moment.
mm.
I'll take you back to my first big shift, which was shifting from a teacher and the
Yeah.
full-time, stability of a salary, benefits, retirement, the ladder, all this stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
to believing the fact that this career change, this shift was actually going to be so much better in my life and my future. So that was my very first shift. And then, lots of years in between these two shifts, but basically getting to the point where I had my really large real estate team, Real Estate with Heart was running as a part owner of a KW brokerage. And I also was going through a shift in my personal life as well, getting a divorce in the same time. And again, this was not a shift that I anticipated, but all of a sudden I found myself very, very unhappy and very unfulfilled
Mm.
and searching also for a solution to this dilemma of being a full-time dad and
Yeah.
a schedule that I could depend on versus the schedule I was running as a real estate agent. And magically, Compass emerged in Philadelphia. So that shift happened for me because of the fact that I really understood that I wanted change, but I didn't know what it was. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden it sort of manifested for me.
Yes.
And it's almost ironic because I went from my first shift was a shift into instability or unknown. And
Right.
this shift was actually a move into stability and more predictability for a phase of my life, so to speak, right? I knew I
Right.
needed to guarantee a certain amount of revenue and income. I knew I needed to, know that I had the evenings and the weekends off because I wanted to be there for my kids. And it's an ironic shift into more of a stability move. And then after 5.5 years or so of sort of grinding through the corporate world inside
Yes.
of Compass, and again, amazing life-changing experiences there.
Oh, you got
I
to influence so many people's careers.
it was the one of the greatest honors of my professional career. I was at a point where I felt that desire and that entrepreneurial spirit and the timing of I'm ready for another shift. And
Yeah.
again, this shift was not something that I was like, I didn't know exactly when it was going to happen, but the moment was there was just this moment where I was like, I'm ready. And I
Yeah.
was like, let's do this. And I shifted again into forming my own business again with hard coaching and doing this full time and being an entrepreneur again and running this business, which has been one of my greatest accomplishments in my professional career,
Yes.
forming a business from nothing and the ground up into what it is today.
Yes, and what was the inspiration to do the kind of coaching? So talk a little bit about the
Yeah.
kind of work that you do now and what the inspiration was to create the company in this
Yeah.
way.
Over the decades of practicing real estate and helping other people practice real estate,
Yes.
one of the biggest aha for me has been the fact that real estate, unlike other industries, is so deeply connected into the person, the human being, and the human experience. And other sales jobs are very disconnected from the human being, right? There,
Okay.
to some extent, all sales jobs do involve it, but for many reasons, real estate is deeply connected to the human being. And one of the holes I saw in the coaching industry was the fact that most of the coaching world was geared at teaching people very rote tactical actions,
Yeah.
playbooks, do this, this, and this, and then you got to tell me if you didn't do it, and if you didn't do it, you're a bad person, right? And
Yeah.
instead, what if there was a world where we actually impacted the human being first? And we
Right.
actually really took real estate and we created a world where we viewed real estate more so as this human process than this remote sales, hardcore, pound the pavement, dial for dollars, fill in the blank line you want to use from whatever coach you've heard that from, right?
Right. Right.
And again, there's a world where that process does work for a very small segment of the population. But for me and the vast segment of the population that I deal with, that doesn't work because of the fact that they really were after living a whole life, a life of fulfillment and enjoyment and helping people. And so when I formed this coaching company, the goal was to make sure that everything I did not just address the tactical sides of real estate and the how-tos and the send this, here's a great email or it's social media. It really addressed the mindset and the authenticity and the beauty of real estate and
Nice.
the beauty of the human being. And how do we blend these two together so they actually make sense? And that's really was the impetus and the drive of with heart coaching, right? Is that this company was going to teach people a way to build a business that was life fulfilling, that
Yeah.
was beautiful, that made you feel whole and allowed you actually to build a legacy and a retirement plan and this pathway forward where you don't need to buy into this hustle culture, right? I don't want to 10x your business.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I want to 10x your happiness. The
Yeah.
reality is, I do that, your business magically is going to grow to wherever X
You
you
want
want
it
it to
to.
go. And the reality is, for most people, 10xing your business isn't going to make you happy.
Yeah, so this is a very interesting side of this topic because shift can mean, right, that you make drastic changes.
That's right.
But what you and I have both been able to witness and perhaps also experience for ourselves, that sometimes more doesn't make you any happier. Sometimes getting the thing doesn't create the feeling that you thought you were going to get by getting the thing.
That's
And
right.
so then we have seen, right, these very successful real estate agents reach all these levels of success from grinding, and they're unhappy, and their marriage is a wreck, and their health is in trouble, and they didn't go to Halloween with their kids. And so
Yep.
now they've achieved certain levels, but they must shift in order to actually have a life along with results that they can not only enjoy but even live with
Yeah, exactly. And thrive in as
and
well.
thrive in.
And that's, I think, the biggest thing we come back to is that we all, I think COVID started this and then that crazy post COVID market exacerbated it, where we created this world where all we were doing is answering emails and texts and everything was flying at us. And then for some of us in some markets, everything just dried up. It went away. So then we were left like frozen.
Right.
And if you're listening to this podcast and you feel frozen and you don't know what to do, you're not alone. And that brings us to the topic of the day, which is that shift. That's
Yes.
that point when you feel that frozen, or you feel that frenetic, or you feel burned out. That's your sign that a shift is necessary.
Hmm.
And it may not be, it's not something you probably wanted or thought about or planned for.
Right.
But the real reason we talk about shift is it's an acceptance of reality, right? You have to accept a reality that I'm burnt out, I'm frozen, I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed, I'm worried, I'm frenetic, I'm fill in the blank.
Yeah,
And this
feeling
is
out of
not how I'm
control. Hmm.
out of control. I don't want to live this way. If you are feeling that, it is time for you to accept the fact that you need a shift in your life and your business, which doesn't mean you need to shift into being a waiter,
Right.
in a restaurant. It doesn't mean it means you need to shift your mindset and your actions in what you're doing. And
In a
that's, I
different.
think, this in a different way. And that's just the reality that we have to sort of come to in these moments that most of us are in right now, right?
Yes.
Because of the business, the real estate market. I
Yeah.
mean, I think about
World
getting
affairs.
world affairs. We won't go, yeah, we will, we won't go too deep into that, but that has an impact on the public, which has an impact on us as agents,
Yes.
or transaction coordinators or coaches, right?
Right. Because it
And
has an
all
effect
this
on the economy, which then impacts all of us in different pockets of the economy, right, for different reasons. But in getting the acceptance of the reality that you just said, there's, I think, at least a couple of sides of that. One of which is quite practical, like the data side of it. The other
yeah,
side of it is the emotional intelligence of it. So, what do
yeah.
you see about the practical as well as the emotional side of coming to terms with that this shift needs to happen?
Yeah. So on the practical side, most agents and even TCs, what we've abandoned are three buckets. We've abandoned systems and processes. We've
Okay.
abandoned CRM and data, like our database, and we've sort of abandoned marketing, right? Like because we got into this mode of just freneticness and like working and doing.
Well, we definitely got into reacting, and now we have to get into proactive. Yes.
Proactive.
Strategic. Mhm.
So, strategically, tactically, three areas of focus for every agent right now for me that I'm coaching are systems and processes that are simple,
Yep.
are CRM and my database, my clients, right? Who are my clients? And then messaging and marketing. How am I messaging and connecting with these clients? And they all, it's a flywheel. They all go together, right?
Okay.
And these are the three things. When ask yourself the question right now, what systems and processes are not working in my business? Where is the health of my database? How connected am I, not to the thousands of people you don't know, but to the hundreds
The
of people you do
relationships.
know, the relationships that breed our business?
Hmm.
And then what messaging and marketing am I delivering that's of value and that's going to create conversations with people, right? That I know. Now you
Right.
could go deeper, and again, if you feel like you're in a good space, you could go talk, figure out the people I don't know as well. But for most agents, we need to get the simple knocked out first, and that's what mostly we're not doing. We're not doing the basics and the simple things of creating conversations with the people I know that are valuable conversations. And those are the tactical sides that we need to address, right? And
Right.
again, we can go deep into each of those, carries lots of different levels and what you need to do. But the other piece of it is the emotional piece. And the emotional piece is actually really hard because nowadays I'm holding up my cell phone in case if you're listening to this and not watching, I'm holding my cell phone. Right now, we've never in a history of human existence, we've never carried something in the palm of our hands that allows us to disappear
Huh?
and allows us to escape. And if you were to imagine a world where we all carried around whiskey bottles and could take sips of whiskey whenever
Yeah.
we wanted,
Yeah.
like
That
that's like,
population does exist, but they're not very
it does.
successful.
Not very successful. And again, here's the reality, like we
God bless
all,
them.
and, which again, just to use it as an analogy, like we all are carrying around a device that allows us to sort of disappear and be distracted and also feel productive and do lots of unproductive things. And this is this the emotional side is much harder because it's very veiled. So the very first thing people need to do in the shift is to get very, very grounded and connected to themselves as a human being. And you've heard me say this concept of being healthy selfish. We need
Yes.
to dial in our self-help or our healthy habits that we all want and we all need, we probably have abandoned. So this means,
What are some of those? Let's talk about that.
and again, for every person that's listening, it'll be different. But the five most basic ones that I come back to are meditation, and don't overthink meditation. Meditation is just breathing,
Hmm.
quietly
Hmm.
or to some guided, concept. That's fine. But just sitting for a couple of minutes alone and with your thoughts and with your breath. The second thing I would come back to is exercise, movement.
Yep.
Walking is exercise.
Hmm.
Moving your body, not being complacent on a screen, not watching TV, going for a walk, engaging those endorphins that get released when our body does what it's meant to do, which is move. The third thing is it can vary for a lot of people, but it's some sort of spiritual practice. And but spiritual practice could include, a religious background. It could include a non-religious background. But when I say the word spirit, I mean, what is it that you do to connect with yourself and your spirit? You know,
Hmm.
and that could include prayer. It could include meditation in some way.
Yes. And
It
nature,
could
being out in nature.
nature. It could include positive affirmations. It could include lots of things in there. But you have to address your spirit. The other thing I would recommend people do is you address your mental scope, which is in my world is reading.
Okay.
So what are you doing that's going to feed your brain, right? Feed your mind. And then the other thing, which is going to, for some people, you don't need to do it, but I find this to be a really helpful practice for me when I'm a little off, is journaling. Just
Mhm.
taking a couple minutes each day to write down, and there's lots of journals out there that'll either guide you. You could just take a normal blank journal and write down what you're grateful for. There's so many practices around there, but those are the most common. And my recommendation to everyone out there is just do one. Figure out which one. If you're not doing any, just pick one and start to use it. Add two if you feel compelled. Now you got two, maybe do the third. But I
Yeah.
do recommend we start somewhere taking care of ourselves and getting real with ourselves, right? Getting
Yes.
healthy. So that's step one in the emotional side, is really connecting with ourselves in a healthy way. The second step is getting real in the sense of what we actually need to do. And
Strategic. Let me step in with the Atomic Habits. I just want to remind everyone, right, of James Clear and the Atomic Habits book, and his work, because everything you just mentioned reminds me of his concept of habit stacking. So if
yes,
while the coffee is percolating or your K cup is perking, right? It's a shorter amount of time. Then you can journal while the coffee is making, right? Or when you
right.
walk, the dog has to go out in the backyard. Maybe you could walk around a couple of times instead of just letting the dog out the backyard, right? Like you can stack these habits on top of things you already do, so it doesn't have to feel like such a big change, but it can still have a big.
Right. And I think your biggest thing, that word atomic, is tiny. It can be so small, like, right. And we overthink what we need to do every day, and what we need to go work out. Oh my God, I don't have an hour to go do an Orange Theory workout class. And you don't need an hour. You can literally do a push up, and that's
Mm,
better than nothing.
it's better than nothing,
Right.
right?
Oh, you got it. Reading one page is better than reading zero.
Yes,
Meditating for a minute is better than meditating for zero. You get the
yes,
idea. So
yes.
I think it's one of those things we gotta get back into the simplicity of what this world is and who we are as human beings. And the reality is our brain and our body and our spirit don't need a lot. They just need a little bit, but they need it every day. And that's this thing we come back to. The other thing then is just being real with what the reality is and accepting reality of like, hey, I don't have enough money to live right now. What I'm doing is not working. What
Hmm.
I'm doing is I'm not happy with what I'm doing. Once you accept reality, now we can get into the third step, which is identifying the exact actions, routines, and processes that we're going to follow.
To take.
And that's one, two, three. One, get connected to yourself, get grounded.
Yep.
Two, accept reality and identify reality. Three, identify the path forward. And the
Yes.
only way through is through.
That's right. And you're not necessarily going to be able to control the outcomes, right? But you can control your activities. And then you pay attention to collecting the data along the way. So you
That's
can
right.
decide if you want to continue with that strategy and that strategic action, or if you want to, take a different tactic and move to a different place.
That's right.
Um, and go,
I'm just plugging in my computer,
yeah,
Kathleen.
go right ahead. Because everything you're
Uh,
saying too about making this shift of accepting reality and then deciding on what to do from there and on taking good care of yourself absolutely connects me to my life in recovery, right? So I'm
exactly.
23 and a half years clean and sober, and I still have an active habit life, right? To be able to maintain that level of health and healing. And one of the first steps in the 12 steps of recovery, the first step is admitting, right, that you're powerless over alcohol and your life's become unmanageable. So that's accepting reality. But the second step of the 12 steps is came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. So it's the
Mm,
same idea, right, of connecting to the fact that I'm human, but I am also, to whatever someone believes, I'm a part of a bigger universe, and there's a power in the universe happening that I don't control. I don't make
so
weather, I don't make seasons, I don't make birds. Like there's something outside of us, right, that is making the world, the planet spin and the seasons change and everything happen. And that acknowledgement alone is
yeah,
enough to right size each of us into,
that's right.
okay, we're all just going through this experience together. And now, right, how do we want to take care of ourselves? And now that we've accepted this reality of where we are, what are the strategies that we want to choose
That's right.
to be
That's
able
right.
to make the shift, even though I've often used the expression, living a life with some spirituality connected to it for myself is like holding a flashlight on garden stones, but you can really only see one or two.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
really sure where you're going to end up.
It's
And
so
it's a
true.
very disconcerting feeling in the beginning of doing it. And then I've sort of gotten used to it like, oh, I don't really know how this is going to turn out. But I'm
Yep.
using the data and I'm following my heart and listening to my intuition of where do I feel aligned?
Yep.
Where do I feel perhaps challenged, but still aligned so that I'm doing the next right thing?
That's right. It's so powerful. And again, these are these moments of shift, so to speak, that we have to embrace. And the reality, as scary as these moments are,
Yeah.
the reality is the other side of these moments is our greatest growth. And I guess that's the fourth step I'll add in here is get excited about a shift,
Yeah.
right? When people look at my career, my life, sometimes they look at it and be like, wow, you've had a lot of changes. And yeah, you know what's so cool? I get excited once I do this process, right? Once
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like, I'll just take Compass. I was burnt out. I was really exhausted. I was stressed out. I wasn't happy, right?
By the
That was
end,
step
yeah.
one, right? At the end. And it was nothing to do with Compass, just like with the way and
You were
everything
ready.
that was going on. I was ready. I got really grounded health wise, physical wise, etc. Accepted the reality. I said, here's what I'm going to do. I did it. And then that fourth piece is I got excited about it. And as even though it was scary,
Yes.
even though it was filled with fear,
Yeah.
right? That was just energy of excitement that I channeled forward and propelled me forward. And I think for anyone that's listening to this, these moments of shift, while scary, are also exciting.
Yes, and this is a slight distinction, right, between anxiety and excitement. It's the
Yeah,
same energy, just channeled little bit differently from
totally.
fear to anticipation, right?
You got it.
And from an anticipation of something good happening. I learned an affirmation. It was an embarrassingly long time ago. I think it was the 90s. And it was something wonderful is going to happen to me today.
Great, great.
And I did not used to think that when I woke up.
Yeah.
I woke up with a lot of dread because I grew up in a household as an only child of very unpredictable, not really sure
Mm,
what was going to go down that day. And so I lived on edge, right, a lot. And I brought that into my adult life unconsciously, right? So I learned this affirmation, fast forward many years, and I moved to Vermont and I met the woman I worked for the first 6 years I was here. And this same affirmation was on her bulletin board. Something wonderful
amazing.
is going to happen to me today. And I said, "Oh my gosh, I found you. We have the same thing." And she said, "When can you start?" And I was like, "Tomorrow."
Ah,
Right.
I love it. Absolutely love it.
Right. So we're still
Mm,
very dear friends. So this idea, right, that you take the anxiety of, oh no, this is the reality. I don't like the reality. I don't want it. I don't want to change. Right. And so for me, I feel like I fold my arms like, I don't want to do it. You know, like I have like a temper tantrum in the fourth aisle of the grocery store, like, oh.
yep.
But once I can get done with my temper tantrum, then I can take the oh crap and turn it into okay, cool. Something wonderful
Yeah.
is going to happen. I'm just really curious to see what it is.
So good.
But it
It's so
is
good.
what is
Yeah.
that? That would be, I guess, a transmutation, right? When you
Yeah.
turn one energy into another, that you
That's right.
transmute that anxiety into enthusiasm with
That's
an
right.
anticipated outcome that's going to be to your benefit because the
That's
world is
right.
not happening to you, everything is happening for you.
That's right.
This kind of
Exactly.
mindset is very helpful.
It's so helpful. And it's so critical in the shift. It's so, so critical because you have to believe that the actions you're doing are going to produce a result you want. And that's
That's
that
something that
belief.
you're going to hate worse.
That's right. You got it. So, and again, be very cognizant of anxiety and also what I often will coach to or experience myself. I can actually flip anxiety in a moment.
Yeah, it doesn't take a lot of time. That's correct. It does not have to take a lot of time.
And all I do is if I'm fearing the worst thing in the world happening or like something bad happening that I'm imagining, all I need to do is imagine the opposite of it. And what if this phone call that I'm afraid to make results in the most positive, most amazing relationship that I've ever experienced?
Yeah.
Right? I'm so nervous. I haven't talked to these people in 5 years. They probably hate me. Then right, anxiety loop goes.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my God, these people are going to be so excited to hear from me after 5 years. And it's like, as we kind of like try to shift that energy and play in energy, it really allows us to take positive action as well.
Well, that's so helpful, right? Because that really is that teeter point, that fulcrum
Hmm.
point of, oh no, into okay, right? To get
Yeah.
that courage, to get that little bit of lift to try to make a difference. Let's talk about team leaders if we can here.
Yeah.
Because it's
Mm.
one thing to be, right, a sole proprietor, individual, whether you're an agent, whether you're an operations person, a consultant, whether you're a transaction coordinator and you're an individual contributor, sole proprietor. But what if you're a team leader, right, or a broker, and now you feel and have a responsibility to lead people through this kind of change, right? So you can't make anybody do anything.
Yep. Yep.
You
And,
can't lead by example.
no,
But what are some of the things that you can, offer to team leaders in helping the team as a whole or individuals on the team make shifts?
I think the biggest thing and is the classic line. I didn't create this, but shifting from passive to purposeful. Um, I want to say it might have been a Gary Keller line. I don't remember fully where I've heard that
Okay.
before, but it's a line that I'm using right now. that a lot of team leaders out there, or ask yourself the question, if you're a team leader, is my leadership passive?
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, if you don't show up for the team meeting, I'm okay with that. If you don't do what we know is good, I'm okay with that. If you are not doing the right, if I'm accepting fill in the
Yeah.
blank, that's okay. In this market, in this time frame, when we are going through all these shifts, we need to be purposeful.
Mm-hmm.
And what that means is leading with a purpose. The actions I do, is there a purpose behind what I'm doing?
Mm-hmm. And is it
And
important that they explain that they tell the why?
perfect. You just took it right
Okay.
out of the air. It's so perfect. The purpose needs to be explained, and you have to ask yourself the question: do the people I'm trying to influence and impact, do they understand the purpose behind this, or are they viewing it in a way that's annoying and prideful, whatever it might be?
Yeah, yeah.
So think of that line, passive to purposeful, and ask yourself the question: am I being purposeful in my actions, in my standards, in my meetings, in my communication, in my fill in the blank, right? Everything I do needs to have a purpose behind it. And if I'm not doing it with purpose, it's going to fall flat in its face. And if I'm doing it passively, now I'm actually exacerbating the situation, because when I'm passive, I'm teaching people that it's okay to be passive. And
Mm-hmm.
this leads me to what we were talking about before the call, where the summer of 2025, in my opinion, and
Yes.
I think this is gonna be in August, but we're recording it a little before August. This
Yes.
is the most important summer in real estate history, in my opinion,
Yeah.
because of the
Exciting.
fact it is exciting, because so many people are going to take a vacation from their business this summer. And for the agents that don't take a vacation, and for the agents out there and the leaders out there that work on their systems, work on their database and CRM, work on their marketing,
Yeah.
you're going to explode in your market. You're going to emerge as this leader and as this person that everyone is looking to, saying, how are they doing that? Because everyone is going to come back from vacation in September and be like dry and dead and no
Mm-hmm.
pipeline, no prospects, and have to start from scratch. And when they do this, they're looking at maybe a settlement in November, December, January. You are going to see a lot of people who take a vacation from their business and then maybe take a permanent vacation from the career.
Because if they take a 90 days, right, they may not have a closing until January.
That's right. Because it takes
They're actually
three
not
more
going to
months.
for 6 months.
That's right. And if you are listening to this, and it's never too late, by the way, if you're listening to this in August and you're hearing this, guess what? Start today. Start today and start working on your systems, your database, and your marketing. Start today building your pipeline. This summer, you may not see the most amazing physical results, right? You may not put tons of properties under contract, list a ton of homes. But if your goal this summer is to have so many conversations with people,
Yeah, you're going to plant seeds.
plant seeds. And
Mm-hmm.
also, I like using this word, the mid-year reset, because you can sort of use it in August, July, or
Yeah.
June, right? You doesn't A mid-year for a lot of people, August feels like a mid-year reset. You
Mm-hmm.
could reach out to people and be like, hey, I'm just calling to do a mid-year reset check-in. Just see if you needed anything. If you're doing home improvement, it doesn't need to be about selling, by the way, but make it your goal to create all these conversations with people and frame it in that mid-year check-in.
Like
What
what
a
we did
great
during COVID, right? We just checked in on people. Are you all
check
right?
in.
How are you doing? Do you need anything? Right.
Yeah, the world's a little crazy. Just check it in.
Just checking in on you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, I'm
And you
thinking
can
about
even
you.
exactly frame it in a way that just powerful and just purposeful. Again, think of that, passive and purposeful. Most of us in COVID were very passive in our lead generation and in our I like to use the word conversation generation.
Yeah,
We were passive because things were coming to us.
coming to us.
Right now, we need to insert purposeful conversations into our repertoire every day.
Nice.
Every single day we had to have these conversations. And a lot of it is, hey, just checking in. And by the way, I'm doing this in my coaching practice with my database of agents where I'm saying, hey, I'm just checking in, seeing how you're doing. Is there
Yeah.
anything you need right now that I can help? I know it's a little crazy out there, and I just want to help in any way possible. And
Nice.
that conversation, I've had so many powerful conversations with people that, again, haven't resulted in clients per se, but have resulted in just me feeling great and me feeling like I'm showing up with purpose to people in my database, in my life. And if agents adopt that whole mindset that, hey, I'm just doing a mid-year check-in and really seeing how you're doing,
Right. And make the
you know,
invitation.
create the invitation, open the door. If they want to talk about buying or selling, they'll talk about it. If they want to talk about the world, they'll talk about it. If they want to talk about the kitchen they're redoing, they're going to
Yeah.
talk about it, right? Let it go where it's going to go. And maybe they say, you know what, Sky, I'm doing great. That's awesome. Cool. Like, I'm so glad I've had, it's again, we don't need to control where it goes. We just need to control the action of making the connection.
Yes. And so you reminded me of talking about team leaders and activities. Purposeful is data. This is also a shift that invites collecting data.
Mm,
And this is not meant as a report card, right? But this is meant as just being able to like find the breadcrumbs to get to grandma's house. You know what I mean? Like how many
yeah,
contacts turn into how many appointments? How many appointments are turning into how many listing agreements? How many written contracts for a buyer are turning into an accepted offer? So this is a time for team leaders and for sole proprietors, individual contributors to collect some data to be able to know how much activity is getting to a result because we're a
right.
little out of practice from having been so reactionary the last few years. This muscle of what does it take to do that? It is interesting sometimes to collect the data as well, but it also can be useful so you can actually sort of get psyched up for what activity needs to look like to get the results that you say you want.
Right. It's so, so powerful. And data is everything. It drives our decision making process. It drives what we do. It interprets like what we should do, how should communicate. So if you're a team leader out there and you don't have data, you're sort of just floating. Or if you're an agent out there and you don't have data, you're floating. And again, data is so incredibly critical. And when you think about a shift, this is part of the get real moment of the shift.
Yeah,
All right, let me
what's
get
really
real.
happening and what are we getting for it?
Yeah. What were my goals? Where am I tracking to it? What are my actions? What have I done? Oh, I
Yes.
committed to doing 5 events and I've done one. I've committed to, making sure I send a newsletter every month. I've done it twice. I've
Yes.
committed, right? Check in that get real moment around data. And you will see everything you need to do in the back half of this year.
So let's talk about the operations people working with the agents or team leaders, because
Mm,
this role is often the canary in the coal mine. This position is really also the one that can be like, Excuse me, I have
yeah,
data that I think you should know about." And so we really have to encourage these people to speak up because so many agents or team leaders are just in the pipeline. They are just focused on making contacts and they don't remember that they only sent one newsletter. They don't make time to plan the client event. They'll go, they'll show up and they'll talk, right? But someone might have to say, "Excuse me, this was our plan we talked about in January, and this hasn't happened. And I want to bring this to your attention so that you can make a conscious decision, right? So that you can have purpose in the fact that I can plan this for you as your operations director, and then I can tell you when to show up. Maybe we could decide on a little budget, and I can make this happen for you."
right.
But the agents may not be the ones that stop and say, "So where are we about all that?"
That's right. I think there's never been a more important time for operational people to be leaders as well.
I would
And
agree.
I think sometimes when we're dealing with very strong personalities, which are real estate agents, Sometimes it's very difficult to show up as a leader with them,
Yes.
but leadership takes many different forms. And leadership can be done in a way that is powerful and calm
Yes.
and loving. And
Yes.
that's your role as an operations manager right now, is to increase your leadership in the way of understanding the exact direction and mindset and movement that your team, your organization needs to take. And
Yes.
then what is your role in that? And elevate your ownership side of that. And sometimes as operational people, it gets a little challenging to hold other people to their ownership piece. But
Yes.
this is where we need to work on our being vocal about the standards and the drive and the goals and the plans that we set a while ago,
Yes.
and how do we recommit to them. And as ops people, if you are working with a team leader that doesn't have a marketing plan, for example, for their business, for their
Right.
sphere, events, newsletters, mailers, you name it, that's a piece that you can step up your leadership and say, hey, in the next month, what are we doing to generate business? And where can I help you?
Mm-hmm.
And why don't we document that plan? So next year in August or September, we don't need to recreate this. Now we just refine it, right?
Yes.
And that's an example of stepping up your leadership role. We don't, if you're waiting for your team leader to say, hey, I spent 2 hours creating this plan, they're probably not going to do it because they're so worried and frenetic
Yes.
around getting the revenue into the business. They don't
Yes.
have the time to pause and create that. So now you have a really golden opportunity to have an impact in your organization, your team, sometimes in ways that you may not have predicted. And again, this is that shift.
Yes.
Sometimes where we are is not what we need to do to get to where we want to go.
Yes.
And sometimes what was is not going to be what is. Because
Right.
you, as a operational person, often, sometimes the team leaders are so in the trenches. And if you were to picture this as a battle, all they're seeing is the trench in front of them. They don't see the bigger picture. They don't see that there are no pending deals closing in September. And
Mm-hmm.
you, as an operation person, are seeing this. And you're like, warning bell, canary in the coal mine, like, hey, if we don't lead generate, if we don't do an event, if we don't get pipeline filled, I may be out of a job,
Yeah.
right?
This is not taking us to our goal. Right.
This is not leading us where we want to go. And so this is a great opportunity for operational people to step into leadership roles. And again, this is not saying to anyone out there that's an ops manager, do everyone else's job and be okay with it. It's
Yeah.
saying, what are the standards that we as a team and an organization wanted to uphold? And right now, my team leader is fighting some bigger battles that they're really focused on.
Yeah.
What are some little things I can do to elevate that up? Right? Is there a world where I can draft the marketing newsletter and bring it for approval to, not wait for my team leader to say, can you do the newsletter? I know the newsletter needs to go out.
Yeah.
Let
I
me
could put
let
it
me
in
start with
AI
that.
and I could create a draft.
Yes, exactly. Nowadays, ChatGPT, I mean, again, it's like amazing
Yeah.
what we can do in
At
minutes.
least create a draft to play with, right?
Totally, totally. So I think it's a great opportunity for all of us. And I always say leadership is not top down. Leadership is up, down, sideways, up, diagonal. It's all areas of your organization. And when my best organizations were the ones where every single person owned their leadership role and viewed themselves as leaders.
Yes.
That's when an organization just hums and goes in beautiful ways.
It does. So give us the three buckets of the most important time and summer one more time.
The three areas of focus in the most important summer of real estate history in 2025 are systems and processes,
Mhm.
CRM and database, and then marketing. And it's a flywheel. It's not a bucket. They all sort of are connected and flowing together. Because
Yes.
if my marketing is going into the CRM and creating the business, that business then needs to be processed through the systems I have and
Mhm.
then flows in
Here's
that
the figure
circle.
eight.
You got it. It's a beautiful flywheel that just keeps moving and keeps things going. And ask yourself the question, what are the holes in my systems and processes? What is the health of my database, my CRM? And then what are the exact actions that I'm taking to message and market to the people I know, the people I don't know, to
Right.
create conversations? And that's it.
And the 5 things that people can do for their own health and well-being are,
Meditate,
mhm,
movement or exercise,
yep,
spirituality, prayer, you name it, whatever it is you do for spirituality,
okay,
read, journaling.
nice.
Those are 5 easy things.
So take one, take that account, right? Be able to accept reality,
That's right.
excited about making a shift, however small or large that may end up being. And then we get to take action. And you're never alone, right? We are here. We are here
Mm,
with everyone. We are all going through it. And the beauty is that we have each other.
that's it. Exactly. And raise your hand and say, I need help. Right. And accept it. More importantly. Amazing.
Thank you. Thank you, my friend, my colleague. I am very, very happy that we got to spend this time together and make this difference and talk about the things that are happening. And we're going to
That's
be able
right.
to take some clips of this and make sure that they go out early so everybody gets to maximize their summer.
I love it. Thank you, my friend. I'm so grateful for you, and you inspire so many people, including myself. And just keep doing what you're doing. It's
Keep
really
shifting.
powerful.
Here we go. We'll all
Yeah,
do it with
let's
heart.
go. I love it.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. See you next
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you. That's a wrap on today's episode of the Cambium Thrive Together Masterclass. If you found value in today's episode, please share it with a colleague, leave a review, or tag us on social. And if you're ready to take your systems and skills to the next level, visit cambium.com to learn how we help agents and teams grow with clarity and peace of mind. Until next time, keep practicing, keep growing, and as always, thrive together.